Hi everybody, Jane Malmy here, and today I'm creating a super fun and pretty colorful layout. It looks like looking at all of these beautiful colorful papers that I'm going to be doing a super colorful layout. But I am actually going to be using tons of little photos, and I'm really only going to be adding a little bit of color. And then I dug out this wood paper from the Fresh Air collection, which was from within the last year or two. And I thought it would be fun to use all of these little tags to put the photos on. So these tags are from this new Tags and Tabs die cut set. And so you've got the 2 dies and the 2 tabs, super fun set, a nice price point, and Olive Close to My Heart's dies come on magnetic sheets already, which is super, super handy. So I already cut all the white ones out, and I'll be cutting some tags from all of this colorful paper. And then this wood slice is from the Aurora Cricut collection. So Close to My Heart has some mini Cricut collections now to coordinate with each paper pack, and this one goes with the Aurora pack. And the collection is only $9.95 and has a handful of really amazing images. The Stitched Together has a mini set as well. If you wanted to check those out, I'll link them below. So I played with what I want this background layer to be. This is Espresso cardstock, and then I tried it on craft. I like that pretty well, and that was a front runner. And then I thought maybe the back, the back, so here's Espresso, and then the back of Espresso is a lighter shade, and it didn't quite give me the depth that I wanted in a different color. But then when I pulled out this Fresh Air paper, I thought, oh, that could be just what I need to give that wood grain pattern. So that's what I'm actually going to end up cutting that back out of. I may add some inking to give it more depth, but that is what I'm going to do. So I will now speed this up, and I hope you enjoy.
So I left one photo as 4x6 to show you how I cut small photos. So I use an app called Pic Collage, and I collage them to the size I want and print them on a 4x6 size and just cut them down. So you can save them and print them yourself at home, which is what I did, or you can also send them in to get developed still. So it's up to you. And then this Fresh Air paper, in order to get the most out of it, I cut out the center and left a 1.5-inch border, and that way I had plenty of the paper left over to use for my Cricut cuts for those wood slices. So that's just a great way to get the most out of your paper, especially when most of it's going to be covered up. And so I just taped around the edges of this white paper, and that gave me plenty of room to put it down and still have that border showing. So this was my inspiration by Paige Taylor Evans, that cute girly layout with the small photos kind of spanned across as banners. And so I wanted to do something like that, but with the photos on tags hanging down as the banners. So I wasn't sure about that large photo there, but I couldn't really cut that down and still see everything that was going on. And that was one of my favorite things that my husband made. So I put that to the side, and I will end up using it. So by the way, I forgot to mention, this layout is all of the wood projects that my husband has worked on during the stay-at-home orders, and he is continuing even now after the stay-at-home orders. He's probably the least handy person that we know, and he will admit to this. He's never been handy, but he wanted to build some shelves for the garage, and so that's where this all started. And he had fun with it and decided to build a workbench. And then he really wanted to build Adirondack chairs because he's always loved them. And so he built some for our front porch, and he just kept going. And come to find out, both of his grandfathers were Finnish carpenters. And so he's got the genes, and he's just learning and doing great, and each piece becomes more amazing. And so I really wanted to document all this because he's just created some awesome pieces, and I love it, and I like making special requests now, which is so cool. So there will be a companion page to this because he is still creating, but that will come at a later date because he hasn't finished yet. So this is just one side of what will be a 2-page layout. So I only have half of the title on here when I'm finished. Okay, back to the layout. So I used the burlap ribbon, the white burlap ribbon, and I pulled it into individual strands, and that's going to be what I put through the tags to kind of make them look like they're hanging from something. And now I keep arranging the tags. I thought I would want white tags with just a little bit of pattern paper popping through on another tag behind it, and then later realized that I wanted each photo on its own tag and wanted more pattern paper showing. So that was the progression there. And now these wood slices, I decided to ink around the edges of the bottom layer, gave it more depth. Even though a lot of it's covered up, it really makes a big difference. And then kind of pounce the color on that top layer as well, to also give it depth, but also to cover up any of the white core that kind of showed through when I cut it on the Cricut. And that smaller one I was showing you, that the Cricut kind of tore up the center. Now I first cut these just on the regular cardstock setting, and they all tore. And then I used the intricate cut setting, and that worked a lot better. So I highly recommend doing that. But that small one still tore a little bit, but it's okay. It was just a little bit in the center, and it's covered up by a tag anyway. So I went ahead and used it, pounced the ink over it, and you can't tell that much anyway. So just be careful how far you size those down because they are such an intricate cut. And by the way, I am using a maker. I just got the maker, and it does cut the intricate cuts maybe a little bit better than the Explorer, but my Explorer did a nice job with intricate cuts too, and there's an intricate cut setting on that as well. So anyways, now I am putting the twine through, and when I cut the length of the twine, I didn't realize I was going to be kind of looping it through the tops of the tags. So it didn't reach all the way across all 4 tags, but that's okay. It kind of worked out in my favor because then I could make it look a little bit different. So that 4th tag has its own little tag, its own little burlap thing, just to kind of, make it look a little different. So by the way, this is a collaboration with the creative design team, which is a group of super talented creative ladies that I am honored to be a part of working with. And we are working with tags this month. So all of us are coming up with creative ways to use tags, whether it is the new thin cuts from Close to My Heart, which I'm using here and are awesome, or Cricut cuts or whatever. So hopefully you'll gain some ideas on using tags, whatever tags you have. And so we hope that we can inspire you. So now that I love how it was looking, but for some reason, I just couldn't leave it alone. I just had to have something on that background. And truth be told, as I look back now, I did really like the white background, but at the time I wasn't. And I do like how it turned out, but I've just been really into mixed media lately, and so I wanted to add mixed media to the background of this. So I'm putting some gesso across the back of the page, covering most of the page, but not all of it. I let it dry. And the gesso is it's like a really runny acrylic paint, I guess you could say. And it helps whatever mixed media you put on it lay on top of the paper, on top of the gesso, rather than soaking into the paper. So it helps you see the true color of, in this case, the ink I'm using is watercolor, rather than soaking into the paper. So I'm just using my ink pad. I squeezed it, added some water to the lid, and mixed it around with a watercolor brush, and I'm using it as watercolor. You could use watercolors for this. You could use reinkers. You could use sprays. There's so many ways that you could add a background like this. You could use the packaging technique to add the color onto the back, but this is just how I chose to do it. And then I added some gold shimmer for some shine and a little bit of color. And then I also added some splatters of espresso because I wanted a little bit deeper color in the background. And so this is now how it looks. I let everything dry really well, and it does warp your paper, so I think it's a really cool look, but it does warp your paper. I do put it under something really heavy for a while, and that helps once everything's dry, but just know that it does warp your paper a bit, but it doesn't really bother me, and it's going to go in my scrapbook and flatten even more afterwards. So to put the tags on, I alternated thin 3D foam tape, regular flat tape, and the foam squares, which are quite a bit raised. So we've got a lot of different levels of dimension going on here. And so that's how I put those on. And some of the twine I kind of tacked down with mini glue dots or glue to make the ends stay where I wanted them to. Now I'm adding some wood veneer pieces. This is a retired set of wood veneer that I think went with hawthorn, but I thought that the wood embellishments would go nicely with this wood theme that I have going on here. So I added all of those, and then I added a few enamel dots, and I think that that made the layout all come together nicely. And by the way, I didn't mention also those wood slices that I put down. I made sure that they were in a visual triangle to kind of make your eyes go across the page. And I did that the same with all of the other embellishments that I'm adding. So now I'm adding some stickers from the Stitch Together collection. This can come with the paper pack. And I just wanted to add a little bit more color throughout, and a lot of those photos have flowers in them, like that bigger one that I'm working next to right now. And he built me some planter boxes that I've got flowers in, and so I wanted to add some flowers to add a little bit of a feminine touch to this layout as well. So just going through all of the Stitch Together options, which match perfectly with this layout since I used some of the Stitch Together paper. Some of them I'm putting up on foam to give them some dimension, and some of them are just going flat. Notice I'm cutting some of them to make them fit underneath the tags when I can't get them all the way underneath, since I did glue them down, but there is a little bit of room underneath, but not enough for what I was doing. So this pretty much wraps up the layout. I'm going to add the last finishing touches, and I am adding the title off screen, but here's a close-up of the pictures that I used. There will be a second layout that I'll record at a later date. I feel like this is going to be an ongoing thing for my husband, or at least until live sports are back. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and please go check out the other creative design team members to see what they created, because they always blow me away with their creativity, and I know they will you too. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so, and I hope you have a wonderful day.